Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from The Hub. Here today with my friend Sue, who is glass artist extraordinaire, along with a million other kinds of artists. Remember, she's super humble. She's never going to say that she is, but she is.
Too
So,
kind.
how are you there, my friend?
I am awesome.
Good. Good.
Thank you.
Good to
How
see
are
you.
you?
I'm good. It's
Good.
nice out. It's spring.
It is fabulous.
It's good. It's good. It's good. So today we're talking about selling. Sue has shown us everything from taking the piece, having the idea, sketching it out, cutting the little pieces, doing the whole process, the amazing stuff that you have, like equipment that you have to make it, and all the levels. And oh, we learned so much. There were people who messaged me later and were like, she that takes her hours. It takes her hours. I went, I know. It takes her hours because you don't realize that in that moment. You just think, seriously, we're done. Come on. Right. It's
It
not
so
power
keeps me
wash.
out of trouble.
Right. Right. So today we're selling, but before that, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the selling, this is a thing that I think a lot of people in this zone have or face, depending on where you want to sell. Are you considered a craftsman or are you considered an artist? And I think that that distinction is in the eye of the beholder. So, what do you do? As you consider yourself an artist, so do I. But what's the distinction when you're selling between a craftsperson and an artist?
It's well, sometimes crafts persons and artists they're the same,
Right.
but there's like different levels of the crafts world,
Yeah.
so to speak. So, I mean, I've done everything from church bazaars and local craft, they call them craft shows, and they are, and to the higher end, the more difficult juried shows, which are, they call them fine art shows. But I mean, anyone that does 3D work is a crafts person. They've been defined as that. I don't know. I don't like the definitions. I don't like the tags. But yeah.
Right. And I think that that becomes complicated. And and I've had this conversation with several different kinds of artists because they will be presented with a show and then think, I can totally bring what I do to this show, and then show up, and then it's not really the show that they
sit there for 4 hours without a sale. I did one with my friend, sat there for 4 hours. I had one sale, I think, where a person bought a piece that was a scratch and dent sale, one that didn't, and that was the only piece I sold. And you pay to get into those shows. And
right. And we're not talking about low end. There's high end as well. You could believe that there is a show that you really fit in, and you could walk in and you could be like, oh, no, my stuff does not fit here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that's, the words that people use for their shows are really important. And sometimes you can't really research a show more than what you can. It's not like, some shows are new and some shows don't have a lot of history, or some shows just don't have a lot of, pictures online or whatever to be able to really get into it. So, and as an artist, you might want to make a decision. Maybe I should try to expand into this market.
I do scouting trips sometimes. If I see there's a show out there, I'll go to the show. And then just by the feeling of the show or the attendance or the layout or wherever it is, it's cumbersome hauling crates of glass.
Right.
So, and I didn't want to make the investment for tents. There's outdoor shows that are fabulous and they run 2 days. But until I haul my stuff and I get a tent and you set it up, and then you have to be able to lock down your tent. I mean, a lot of places have security and such, and I'm too old. I'm just too old to.
And then, I mean, so for those of us who are like local, or even if you're not super local, but like the Kutztown German festival.
Mhm.
So that could be an example for some people that you could say, well, that's just craftspeople. I wouldn't use the word just in there because you and I both have been to that festival and gone, ooh,
Mhm.
woo, some of that stuff is art. No matter what you say, it's art over there. But either way, we know because we've talked to those
Mhm.
people are on the circuit.
Yes.
They, from whatever day to whatever day, because it's early in the spring till late in the fall, they are going cross country
Mhm.
to sell their wares. And sometimes that's not even early in the spring. Sometimes it's 365 with breaks in between. They are going on the show circuit, and who knows how it is with COVID and whatever, but in the world before, to sell their wares in the show circuit. And that is what they do. And sometimes they're making their stuff while they're there, and you've seen, we've all seen how that works.
Mhm.
So you're right. Just using the word the shows there's gajillions of opportunities that you
Mhm.
can have
There
at
are,
shows.
seriously, yes.
So that's one category, which has a lot of different levels, anywhere from, you're right, church basements to shows that you jury into, that you have to say, I'd like to show these 5 pieces. Or actually, can you explain to us, how do you jury into a show? That would probably be much more helpful. How do
They
you do
they
that?
usually set up a date for
Hmm.
jurying potential artists. And you write in and you get a time and an appointment and you take your work in and they let you know. I mean, often you pay just to be juried, $35, $25 just to get your work there. I mean, lately you can send photographs of your work,
Hmm.
which I've done that. But and then if you're accepted, you get a letter later saying you're accepted, and yeah.
So then do you have to bring like all the pieces you want to show, or do you bring like 4 pieces? Or I'm sure they tell you in the letter.
Yeah, you take a number of your best representations. Sometimes they ask for a photograph of your stand, depending on whether it's one of those places where you go and you have to set up a booth or a stand. They will ask for a photograph of your stand or your booth.
So it fits the aesthetic of the place that you're showing.
They
So you
want
don't
to make
just bring in,
sure, right,
right,
two
concrete
by
blocks.
fours and set up a rickety something that
Right,
might fall apart.
right,
Some
because
places rent you poles. They have the setups, and for a couple $100 you can rent. So you have to be stocked with, if you're doing a show of that magnitude, you have to have enough inventory that you can cover the cost of the booth, cover the cost of the couple days or whatever it is, and then still come up out on the plus side of your sales.
right, you have to like plan to yourself, how much
Yeah,
do I have to sell so that I can make it work this time?
right.
And then not feel like you have to feel successful at the end, not just be like,
Sure.
woohoo, I made $20.
Yeah, yeah. I've done shows where I did go, hey, I made $20 on this.
Right,
And
because
it's
yeah,
and pricing your stuff is, yeah, that's a whole
that's a
different.
whole other level, right? Right, because we talked about that before. If you say my work is worth $100 an hour
Woof.
as a artistic professional,
Mhm.
then plus supplies, plus electricity, plus rental space, plus da 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 whatever.
Right.
Congratulations, this mug is now $250. Good luck, enjoy your coffee.
It is not as easy as it, yeah.
Right. Right, right, right. Complicated. All right. Second, you could show at schools or places like the Banana Factory, which is in the Lehigh Valley area, or Goggle Works, which is in Berks County. So those are like schools slash studios slash
Most of them
community.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, most of them have little stores that the people that teach there and whatever sell their things in the stores. And often they invite outside artists to sell their work there too.
And when you sold at GagaWorks, you also had a
Mhm.
studio there so that you could go in.
No,
Oh, you didn't have a studio there.
I taught there on occasion.
Oh, okay.
I would teach a class here and there, but no, I never rented studio space.
Okay. But so other artists could have a studio there that you could do stuff.
Sure,
Okay. So you could teach there and have a studio and you could sell.
absolutely.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So another way you can sell is, of course, at a gallery.
Mhm.
How do galleries work? Because I think so some of us have read books where people just sell things at a gallery. And you just read that in the book. Blah, blah, blah was selling at a gallery. And you're like, fantastic. That's lovely. We don't know how that works at all.
Well, some galleries invite you, like Brian Williams, if I can name drop. He owns a framing gallery studio, Your Claim to Frame.
Cute.
And I was invited. He scouts out artists. He will go to different shows, and if he likes the work or whatever, he invites them to sell their work at his gallery. So his framing studio is not only framing, but the rest of the building, he has artwork hanging and three-dimensional work and all sorts of stuff. Some galleries you seek out, I would imagine. And then of course they sell your work. You drop it off. It's easy. It's probably the best case scenario if you're prepared to give a percentage of the sales to them, but they cover, the sales tax and all that fun stuff. But yeah, there's all sorts of galleries. Of course, New York, I heard that the galleries take 50% of their sale. Around here, it's more like 30 to 35% goes to the proprietor of the studio.
Could you
gallery.
Do you ask galleries too to do you just knock on the door and say, hi, I do things in glass. Would you like to sell them in your gallery? Do you do that too?
I have, early on, I send out DVDs, CDs of my work and photographs.
Oh, okay.
I just don't have the courage, which is, my problem, not theirs, to walk into a gallery and go,
oh,
I'm Suzanne Oswald. Here's my glass. What do you
Here's my glass. It's fantastic.
Please step outside. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So some people could send like a prospectus and like a binder, like a glossy, fancy, like their art resume.
Right.
And to say, hey, gallery, look how fancy I am. You want me in your gallery because I will bring you all the cool kid clientele and money. Oh, okay. Okay. So you can solicit for galleries.
Yeah, I have solicited.
Right. And as we giggle about this too, that's embarrassing. I mean, it's hard because it makes you feel, super vulnerable. It's super vulnerable.
It's like an actor trying for a part. I mean, rejection is.
Yeah. But that's cool also. There are so many kinds of galleries that they can come to you.
And they specialize.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So the next kind of place you can sell also is a store. So like a store that sells anything. So tell us about your store experience.
Well, I've approached, the first one that ever happened was a jeweler, a local jeweler in Kutztown. I went in to purchase whatever and I took my stuff in there. And that was one where I did take a chance because I knew that he sold things besides jewelry and he had gifts on some of his shelves. And he liked my work right away, which was really lovely, thank God, or, this being my first attempt at this. And he purchased some of my work outright. And then
sold it
instead of the commission piece, he which was probably easier for him. He set the price then and he sold it from there. I've also been to like coffee shops where they have small little gift areas and I've sold, smaller things, mugs and whatnots. And so I've approached florists that have big, and I try to place in Philly several times, a big florist. that also sold gifts, but they just weren't really, maybe it's just too cumbersome to be able to, cover your own sales plus this person asking for a commission. And
Hmm.
maybe it was just a venue that they didn't want to approach. So yeah, but that's definitely a possibility.
Right. So it could be, and so you touched on like a couple of things here. Some of those were people you knew
Hmm.
because you had been to that store before. And so you were like, oh, they vibe with the stuff that I do. So this could be a good opportunity. And,
Right.
and that's that whole other thing. Like artists still have to connect to people. So
Oh, absolutely.
you gotta know people. And you and I were both teachers, so that means the list of people we know is long,
It is.
which
It
is
very much is.
very helpful. And that's also one of those things, like it, as much as you want to be dedicated to what you do, you still have to be able to be out there connecting with other people, because that's how you're going to get into wherever it is you want to get into, whether it's a show or a gallery or a store or whatever. Yeah.
That's the part that's difficult for me. And thank God, word of mouth had me invited to a couple things and like suggested, by way of one thing I got into another thing. So that was very helpful.
Yeah. And if anybody who's watching this is like in that business, that
Mhm.
you usually get a lot more from word of mouth, or if we had an artist and someone goes, I've got one for you.
That was it. That was my big break. That they were specializing at Malvern Retreat. They were specializing in glass for their focus art form. And yeah, somebody suggested me and they called me and I was like, talk about being intimidated. When I went in to sign in and take my work and I looked around and I thought, oh my God,
You're like, these people are
are
artists.
really good.
Right. And then you're like, I don't know if I can compete against this.
I like,
don't know.
close your mouth and don't let people know that you're like,
Right.
the paintings, this, and it was everything. It was paintings and jewelry and
Wow.
pottery. And yeah, I was very humbled.
Wow. Wow. That's really cool. That's cool. And the last part is DIY, which is you have your own storefront with
Mhm.
yourself, you have your own website, you do it with Etsy, you're doing it on your own. And have you done that?
I have done that.
And how do you feel about it?
Mixed. I was on Etsy, and it doesn't matter how many photographs you take or how many measurements you put with your objects. Somehow or other, there's always the buyer that orders your piece and doesn't get it, and then they get the piece and it's too small or too the wrong color, or yeah. So that part of it, the frustration of the time it would take to deal with the communication, that kind of gets lost in the, and with glass, until you pack it. And then when I send glass, I bubble wrap it, box it, bubble wrap the box and box that. So until you go through all of that packaging, it costs an arm and a leg to ship anymore. So it's kind of tough doing it that way. Now I do have a website, but I don't do sales through there. And maybe eventually I will venture into that, but still shipping glass is yeah, it's difficult. And so now I will use it as more of a gallery. If you're interested in my work, check it out here. And then this is where I will be.
Ah,
I'll put down where I will be,
yeah.
because I do a couple shows throughout the year, not as often, and as somebody that has to make a living doing this does
Right.
way more shows than I do.
Right.
But yeah, that's been my experience with online. Some people are very successful, and if you sell things that are not so cumbersome and heavy and difficult to ship, it's a great way to do it. Etsy is a great marketplace.
Right. And I think that, you're right. Your medium makes it challenging. If you were selling earrings, not to belittle that medium, but if you were selling
Oh,
earrings, you could do it in a second.
right.
Significantly easier, significantly easier.
Bubble wrap, lick the seal, send it.
Right.
Yeah.
You could put a regular stamp on there and be done with it.
Yeah.
But your medium is significantly different than that. And you're right. And I think that it's hard. Your pieces are, I mean, I just picked it up because it's sitting here. Everybody knows if I took measurements of this coffee mug, that it is what it is, because I've got 100 frames of reference from other people, from
Mhm.
TV shows, from websites, from Amazon, from whatever. Your pieces are individual and one of a kind. So I almost have to see it and touch it.
I've done,
And you're right. You're right. It's hard.
yeah, I purchased things off of eBay, and they lay the ruler beside it, and
Right.
I know, and I will hold my own ruler up and say, okay, I have it.
I have the ruler right here because I do the same thing. I'm like, how big is it?
Yeah.
It's 7 inches. 7 inches. Well, how big is that? Well, is that really? I do the exact same thing. Exactly.
And still it gets here, and I'll be
Still,
like,
and I'm like, oh no, I really wanted 15 inches, 7 inches. What an idiot. I do the exact same thing. That's and the ruler's right here.
so much smaller than what I thought. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
That's interesting. So, I mean, and this is why I really wanted to talk about this part with you, because, of course, you could do this in your basement all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
But then what? Then
Right.
you would die and there would be 10,000 boxes full of beautiful glass that no one would ever see.
Right.
So-
I mean, you can produce forever, but if you
Right.
don't, and I know people that just produce for the sheer love of it, and they don't want to sell, or they'll gift it. But I don't know. Selling for me is partially enjoyable because I know somebody cared about it enough
Yep.
to want to invest in it, and
Yeah.
and knowing that I have hundreds of pieces out there, probably like all over, like
mean,
people touch them, and yeah, there's just something really special about that.
That absolutely is, because I'm not going to do it. But it is, when I look at your pieces that I have 10,000 memories, and I can go, and I can share in all those little memories because I know you, I know that moment, I know the stuff.
Mhm.
And I think, but even though we have a personal connection, I think that even when someone buys something that you made and they met you for 10 minutes, it's still a personal connection. Different,
Absolutely.
but it's still like, remember that lady at that place when we bought the thing and she talked about the whatever it is, and they still have that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
just-
I purchased pieces. There's a lady in Kutztown that makes these cool dolls, like really bizarre, out of old gloves. And
Oh, that's cool.
I tried to get over there every year and purchase something new. I don't know her, but the pieces are so cool. And I think of her every time,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the other parts about this is that all of our brains are different. And we know that art works on one side of your brain really strongly, and on your other side of your brain, well, depending on what kind of art you do, depending on is the strength. But it also is about, if you want to sell, what does that mean? If your brain is not strong in that area, can you teach yourself? Of course. Do you want to teach yourself? You may. Do you recruit somebody to be the person and you just give them food to help them survive and then you don't have to pay them? You have to make that decision. Do you hire somebody? I mean, you have to make that decision, because there are some artists who can be like, yeah, I can create and I can sell because I'm amazing. Well, great for you, but not everybody has those skills.
Right.
That's why this is cool, because it gives artists an opportunity to think about all the different ways that you can use the skills that you have without having to hire somebody or whatever, or make your spouse or your kid do it
Yeah,
reluctantly.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh, this is lovely. So do you have anything new that you haven't shown us that you want to show?
I
Hey,
do.
hey.
I just finished. I have a lineup. I call it a lineup. I will work on a few
Oh,
pieces and then they kind of sit in a holding pattern until I have enough pieces lined up that I want to start blasting. So this is a tall blue bottle. It's hard to tell because it's all covered now, but these will be bluebirds.
oh, cool.
And this is about to go into the blasting cabinet. First, I'll do the outline of the bird, and then I'm going to peel away all the things around the bird so that the birds stay blue and the background will be all blasted white. So I'm kind of excited about that
That's gonna
one.
be cool.
And I just finished calla lilies.
Oh, and the piece goes really well with that too, because the piece is
Mhm.
curved, not like you've never done that before.
I try to
Oh,
think about the form, the form and what I'm doing on the form, and it has to all be,
and with the leaves on the bottom.
yeah,
Oh, that's a gem. That's a gem and a half.
thank
You may have
you.
sold that like before this like interview is through, unless you've sold it already.
I mean, all right, look at the size of my head. It's a very big piece.
Get
It's
your
a
hands on
very big piece,
that.
but
Wow. Oh,
I'm
that's
excited about that.
oh, I can't wait for that.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful.
And I just finished. These are thistles. I thought about this. I mean, it's a really bizarre long oval. What do you put in it? A long loaf of bread sliced or whatever. But yeah, so I wanted to repeat a pattern. So they're thistles, and I left the middle of the thistle open and blasted around it. And
Okay, if you so so Sue's actually showed me that without putting the black in the middle, and it's actually harder to see that way. And you actually see these you see the relief of these triangles in the middle. And I was like, I'm not really sure if I get it. And then she showed me the with the black in the middle so that you can really see it, because it's hard when you're on video. And I mean,
it is sometimes you.
hey, thistles, super unique. But hello, flower of Scotland, Scotland, yes, I think.
They're
And
one of my favorite things to play with.
so cool. Oh, I mean, you don't see a lot of that. Well, except, okay, so I have to give a small nod. My father collects thistle glassware and has this whole it's not little, this whole line of this thistleware that's so beautiful. So this could be a very cool, Dad, here you go. He will be watching this modern addition to his thistleware, which could be
Adaption.
really
Oh
cool.
my God. I've done bulbous thistles where I've made vases that kind of do this sort of thing, turn into a giant thistle. And
That's cool.
that's, yeah,
That's
nature.
so
I mean, where do you look for design? Nature itself has
yeah,
so many fascinating, yeah. So
yeah.
that's where that came from.
Thank you as always.
Oh,
As
you are
always.
welcome.
As
Anytime,
always.
anytime.
If any of you are interested, I'm not even going to be no shame here. If any of you are interested in anything that Sue has for sale, drop a little note, PM me. We'll put her website up there. Seriously, if you
Thanks.
are not getting a little piece of her to take to your house, you are missing out on some love. I guarantee.
That's
So
kind. Thank you.
thank you, my friend. Cheers.
Thank you.
Good
Take
luck.
care.
See you, everybody.